sit next to each other?
And our little lips.
Yeah.
What does the chordal say?
Oh, well then I better go over there.
We haven't worked that out.
Yeah, no. Hey!
What's happening?
Everybody having a good time this weekend?
Woo! Me too.
Hey, nice hair. It's fantastic. So, yeah, do we want to do a little Q and then we do a little A? Yeah? Do we have another mic for Q&A? We do. Who's got a question?
Who's got a question? Put your hand up high. We've got 2 mics fighting. There we go.
There.
I like this couch.
It's really nice, actually.
It's very nice.
Yeah, all 3 of them are great. If the storm comes in, we might actually be using them this week.
Oh no!
Hi,
Hey.
this is for Eric. I was just wondering, being the voice of Seto Kaiba, if you've actually played the Yu-Gi-Oh game before.
You know what? I directed Yu-Gi-Oh as well, so I had to know the rules for continuity. The only time I've ever played is at the national tournament where I duel live against other actors on the show. I don't know if you've ever seen that. If you go to YouTube, you can find me dueling against Joey and Tristan, which was, I mean, come on now. And then I also dueled against Pegasus. That was a fun one, but I won't tell you who won both of those matches, me. But that's the only time I've really ever played it. But even if I don't know the rules, I'd beat you. Good question.
I've never played it.
She could beat me though. Who else has got a question? Come on, guys. Oh, in the back. It's so dark.
It's very dark. We can't see you.
So dark.
I see a hand though. Hi.
Hi.
You play Eno, right?
I do.
Do you ever get frustrated with making like the same sort of like remake of the same sounds for the character?
Like, mind transfer jutsu!
Yeah.
Like that. And Colleen's talking about Billboard Brow, although I have not called her Billboard Brow in quite some time. You know, a lot of anime has a lot of the same stuff in a lot of it. Like I've said, huh? About a bazillion times in many, many different ways. So yeah, I mean, it can get tedious, but, there's a bug in my face. But I love it, and it's, I'll soldier through saying huh a million times or mind transfer jutsu. The only thing that, like, if there's a lot of action and a lot of, I actually have, for Konohamaru, because I play him too, he's way more gravelly and he's got a lot of action sometimes. There was one of the video games that it was like him and Naruto battling through the entire thing, and I was worked after that, so it kind of messes with my throat, but like, I don't complain.
Good question.
Good question.
Who's got another question? Yes.
In Digimon Season 1 or 2, other than Sora, who was your favorite character?
Stretching my memory. I liked my Digimon. I like my Bio and my Bertramon. Digivolve 2! Who knows what's gonna happen? But the funny thing about working on the anime shows is we're almost always alone. And if your character isn't in a lot of the episode, you don't necessarily know what happened in between from one line to the next. See, now he directs a lot of them, so he gets the whole script. I get the script on the stand, but I don't have time to read the whole thing, so I read my lines. And that's it. But I like Matt, and I liked Kyle.
Good question. Yes. Yes. Back.
Hi there. You guys have roles that you're really quite well known for, but you've done more voice acting work than that. Is there a favorite role that you have that isn't the one that you're most well known for, or?
That's a good question. I kind of like, I play Meta Knight on Kirby. And for those of you who don't know, it is basically Antonio Banderas, no? Yes, of course it is, yes. And when we were auditioning for that, Meta Knight has no lip flap, meaning he's got no mouth movement. He's got just the helmet on. And so we're always looking for a new voice to use, a new accent to add in. And I said, well, what if Meta Knight is Spanish? And they said, why? I said, well, I don't know, why not? And they said, okay. So I did that voice for a while, long before Shrek ever came out, so Antonio Banderas is doing me doing Antonio Banderas. But I was recently doing a convention in Miami, Florida, which has a large Spanish-speaking community. and big convention. And a bunch of young people came up to me and said, "You were the coolest because you played Meta Knight." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." They said, no, see, that was the only character on television that sounded like us on Saturday mornings that didn't make fun of us. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't really think about it that way. So I love to do Meta Knight because he's the coolest with his Spanish accent. No, yes, of course. So yes, that one.
My favorite character is Polly McShane from The Kids from Room 402. That was the very first show I ever did. She's really loud and she talks like this, and she likes to do the polka and she collects spoons.
Seriously? Look to your left. I thought look to your right. Look to your right.
Oh my gosh, is that spoon? I just got this one from Utah. It says Utah on it. So yeah, she's my absolute favorite. She's a little bit crazy, but that's alright. Yep. She's my favorite.
I didn't get any props. What's up with that?
What? Oh.
I didn't get any props. Let me have a spot.
I'll share a spoon!
Thank you.
Just that one, because it's not my favorite.
That's great. Thank you for
This
that.
is my favorite spoon.
Great.
They're all sorry.
Losing my breath.
Oh, we're good. Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. You've travelled up the country for us. Do you have an impression of us that you would like to share?
Yeah.
I think you're all
Do you mean like we think you're friendly?
A Kiwi accent.
Oh, you mean like the fact that you have eeks for breakfast? I've decided that I'm going to just remove the vowel E. And then that's all it is. I mean, you guys can use it if you want, but you don't have to. No, I made a pact that I would not imitate you, because I've been on tours with anime voice actors who are constantly doing that, and I know that if you did that coming to visit me, first of all, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, all right? I live in Nashville, but I'm from Brooklyn. And all my friends talk like this. That's how they talk. How you doing? Good like that. But if you did that to me all day long, I'd have to punch you in the throat. So I don't do that. That's not, your Kiwi accent is not one that I have mastered yet, but I do have your old...
She's like, you do it. You do it.
Yeah, she can do it. Go ahead, she can
You
do
do
it.
it.
Go ahead.
Turn lift. It's always, like my husband says, there are no other vowel sounds but E. My jacket. I left my jacket. I left my jacket on the lift.
I have been told that I'm a legend. Legend.
Legend.
You guys it's funny because us in now sounding South African.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I don't do it. I mean,
I haven't mastered it yet either.
No,
I'm
no.
really trying, but it's not easy. This is not an easy one.
no, and I never claim to say that I know it. Trust me. That's
So
not
what we're basically doing is dropping a challenge now to put a good New Zealand accent into anime.
Good New Zealand accent. I can't, it's
No.
hard. It's not easy.
No.
And then it gets like, then I turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Who was the most famous Kiwi ever? Get to the Java. Get me a Kiwi.
I had to do a Russian accent in a video game, and my Russian is not, great. I got my Russian accent from Boris and Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle, and I had to be the Soviet V4 launcher, but it would like meld into Irish. I'm like, oh God, what's happening? I'm like, are you sure you wanted me for this? I was sweating at the end, and then at the end the guy's like, where did you study your Russian accent? Because it's so good. I'm like, Chekhov from Star Trek.
What's Victor One, Captain?
Captain!
Oh my. I can't tell you exactly why, but yes, I have a great chapter story that I can't share with any of you. Anyway, okay, good. All right, good. Next question.
Hey.
Oh, there you are. Where's the ninja? There he is. Yes, ninja.
Hey, you guys are both worked on, well, one of you worked on Pokemon, one of you's worked on Digimon.
Anything that has a mon in it.
This is a famous debate, but which ones do you think are better?
Well.
Transformers.
Good question. Yes, right.
Naruto.
And I don't know. I mean, you guys would have to be the judge of that.
Really
How much did the Digimon movie make?
I don't know if we have to bring it down to I'm not sure that's necessary.
$80 million in the opening weekend. Oh, what? That's what Pokemon made in the opening weekend, the largest draw of any animated dubbed film of all time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Actually, I prefer Battle of the Planets. Thank you. There's a G-Force fan. Transmute. Thank you. All right. Look it up if you don't know it.
Sorry, was that your question, or was the question who would win in a fight between Pokemon and Digimon? Yeah. What about that?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what are the rules of Digimon?
We don't have cards and stuff.
You don't. So
you can digivolve into bigger things.
Don't you turn into robots or something?
Well, they just keep getting bigger.
Oh, so that would beat
Now,
us.
I don't know how tough a Lilymon is gonna be. That doesn't sound very tough.
Can anyone beat Pikachu? I don't think anybody. Yeah, see, they're like, oh, I can kick Pikachu.
I gotta be Pikachu for one episode.
I was Squirtle. He had glasses. That was cool. We're talking about fashion, right? Beating you in fashion.
Hey, Stuart has a blue helmet, so.
There it is, a tie.
See?
That's what it is. It's a tie. Good question.
Everyone wins.
All right, Ninja. Everybody's like hiding in the dark. They're like popping out. Here's your question.
Stand up.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering how you guys got into voice acting and if that's what you thought you wanted to do with your life when you started.
Well, once upon a time. I always kind of did voices. If there was a baby or an animal, they would just sort of come out. When I worked in a theater group called the Peanut Butter Players, and they voted me most likely to be a Muppet Baby. That was a show from a million years ago. But I was doing musical theater, and I went to the University of Michigan, and I was a dual major in musical theater and psychology, very useful degrees, which I thought I was going to go to grad school and be a music therapist, because I figured, hey, everybody's got some kind of music that they listen to, whether it's classical, or rap, or rock and roll, or country, or whatever, everybody listens to some kind of music. That's what I was going to do. And then I got sucked into the theater thing, and anyway, blah, blah, blah. I was doing a voice at the end of a class, and my instructor came over and was like, was that you? And I said, yeah, sorry. They just come out and kind of like, Sybil, I'm sorry. And she said, no, you need to do voiceovers. And I went, oh my God, Saturday morning cartoons, that's for me. I could be the Little Mermaid, I could sing. And so I moved to LA, and the rest is history.
Good answer.
That's my story.
Good answer. I was a singer-songwriter long before I was a voice actor, and the other thing I did during the summers, I know you can tell by my physique, but I was a tennis pro. I used to teach tennis. So I worked at a tennis club, and one of the members there owned a recording studio, and they said, Eric, we need a new assistant, and we know that this is something you're interested in. Do you want to come work for us? I said, sure, this is great, because I figured you're going to have rock and roll bands in there, stuff like that. And so I took this job, and I was the coffee guy. I took out the garbage. I cleaned the counters. I called it the Karate Kid version of how to study. It's like wax on, wax off. And after about a week or so, I said to my boss, so when did the band start coming in to record? And she said, we don't record music here. We only do radio and TV voiceovers. And I was like, that's a job? She's like, yeah. So for 10 years, I worked in this studio, and I started as the production assistant, then I was the casting director, then I was the producer, and then my boss retired, and I ran that studio for 10 years before I moved on to direct all the cartoons that you know that I work on. So in that time, directing and working with some of the greatest actors in New York, it's like being a sponge. I was absorbing that. But during casting sessions, what would happen is, on a radio spot with like a 2-character, you might call in 10 women and 10 guys to read a commercial together. And in the last, 15 minutes, you get a call and say, oh, that last guy's not showing up, and I've got a woman waiting to read with someone. Well, everybody else had a chance to read with someone else, and that's really where, put them in the best light. This one person doesn't have anyone to read with, so I would jump in the booth and read with them. And after doing that, the clients would say, we like the last guy, but he didn't say who he was. And I say, well, that was me. I was just filling in for someone didn't show up. They said, no, but we want you. So I slowly started to be picked that way. And then when I was offered a tour to go on the road, I decided I needed to not have a 9-to-5 job. And being a voice actor was the best way to do that, because I can do voice acting from anywhere. I have a microphone and a quiet little room. So I kind of stumbled into it, but I've been doing it now for close to 30 years, so yeah. Good question.
Hi, I'm just wondering, what was the most hardest episode that you fellas have ever done?
Where did that question come from? It was like, I'm like, oh, that's the darkest place in the. It's like, that's the darkest place in the world.
The hardest episode I've ever done? Do you mean hardest as far as like challenging or physically important?
Badly written.
Oh,
You mean badly written,
well,
or you mean like strain on the voice?
How long do you have?
Yeah, exactly.
Just like challenging, like learning your lines and stuff like that.
Well, luckily we don't have to learn our lines. They
You
just
read
put
them
it
off the page.
right there, which is. There are lots of times it's vocally challenging, like you were saying. Lots of video games are extremely stressful on your voice. I had a day a couple months ago. I was working on. I had to do the Sonic video game in the afternoon. I played Tails. And in the morning, I was working on this movie called Axel, the Littlest Big Hero. And it was this little guy who had 1 foot, and he was so cute. But it was a boy, and it was both of them super high action. So it was all in all 7 hours of your energy level up here, and everything's happening and screaming and faster, and that's really hard. And it's hard to maintain that level of energy when the stakes are high, and especially with a video game and you've got like a bazillion scenes and you walk in and there's this gigantic binder. It's like, please tell me that's not all for me. Because they're big, there's a big fat binder, and you gotta so you do the scene stuff, and then you always have to do a couple of takes of everything, and then there's all the fighting, and then the dying, and the blasting, and the efforts, and so those are stressful. But the one that stands out the most, I was 8 months pregnant. And I always stand when I do voiceovers, because I can't sit. See how I use my hands? I have to move. So it's actually hard for me to sit here. They knew I was having this baby, so they wanted to get it in as many episodes as possible. I don't even remember what the show was, but this was a director who was the kind of director that liked to make you do it again just because he could. And not necessarily because he needed to, just because he liked to make you do it over and over. When I was pregnant with my second baby, my voice would go away for no reason. I wasn't sick, but I never knew what was coming out of my mouth, which is kind of a bad thing for a voice person to not know what your voice is going to sound like when you go in the booth. So I was really struggling, and I had tea, and I'm eating apples, and I'm trying to drinking water, but it was really, really hard. And it was a show it was anime, and it was a lot of action and stuff. And the other thing about this guy is I knew I had it on the first take, and he would take me so far away from where the scene was, we'd end up right back where we started. And I almost asked him a bunch of times, hey, why don't you play that first take I did, and then play this one that we just did? I bet you they sound exactly the same. But he just did that to me. So I'm hugely pregnant, about to burst. And I couldn't talk, and he kept making me do this line over and over and over and over and over. And most of the time, I'm like, great, however many times you want me to do it, I'll do it a bazillion times. But this time I was like, I just looked through the glass, and I went, no, I'm not doing it again. And I turned around, and I screamed a very loud expletive, and I sat down. I'm like, I dare you to make me say that line again. It was so, and I tell you what, I went into labor that night.
It's a whole new Lamaze thing. I played Dr. Z on Dinosaur King, which is basically a Pokemon sort of like rip-off template kind of thing. And the characters that were very similar to Team Rocket, which would have made sense for me to play if I had played that, I would have sounded too much like James. But they wanted to use me on the show. So they said, well, maybe you can play this crazy doctor, the main sort of kooky villain. And I said, great. And so we had to come up with a register and a voice that wasn't one that was being used on like the 10 other shows we were working on. So Dr. Z is a maniac. And I said to the director, great, I'd love to play this role. How much does Dr. Z talk in the episodes? They're like, oh, he has like a monologue in the beginning, and then he's got like little things throughout. He's basically giving them, orders from back at the base. He doesn't really do too much. And the first episode was like a 3-hour session. And I'm like kicking myself going, why did I come up with this voice? And so basically, Dr. Z talks like this the whole time and screams. That's all he does. And there's one note that he has. And that's and fast talking and screaming stuff. It got to the point where when they would book me for that show, I'd say I'd only do an hour a day, and I wouldn't do any more than that. They'd have to split it up over the week, because if I did Dr. Z for more than that, I wouldn't be able to voice anybody else except for like Seto Kaiba, age 60. You know, like, I play my Blue Eyes White Dragon. You know, that's about it. So yeah, Dr. Z was the hardest voice to do. A good question, Ninja. You have another question? Where? Oh,
Left hand side.
Okay.
I can see
now, my question is that what are the challenges that you guys face when you are making like a dubbing for a character that's already had an impression to the anime community?
Right. Well, so are you guys familiar with basically the two types of ways that we record shows? There's ADR, which is, of course, we're matching lip flap, right? That's already been animated, so we have to follow that. And then there's prelay, where we record the voices beforehand, then it's built into an audio bed, and then that's sent to be animated, like the original versions of Pokemon and things like that. So to match lip flap requires 50% acting, 50% technical skills. And what I think
Tapping your head and rubbing your belly.
Yes.
And chewing gum and standing on the leg.
So you count syllables, and that's really but it's also the timing of it. And you know, we're both musicals, so that's very helpful for many ways of doing voice acting. Obviously with pitch, inflection, that helps, but also timing. Like if I hear a song on the radio, I will be able to sing along by the second chorus because I know the phrasing, I know the cadence, I know all of that. It's the same kind of thing. You show me lip flap, I'm gonna get it on I'll get it on my first take because I've counted the syllables. If the writer has written it appropriately and counted.
If. That's a big if.
You see, and we were very strict about lip flap, matching up not just the start and the end, but actually the in-betweens. So you might have a great read in mind as an actor. It's not going to fit because of the way that the lip flap is done. So you have to sacrifice a little bit for that. But like a show, I directed a funny little show called Viva Pinata. I don't know if you guys have ever watched that. But that was a prelay show. I got to record my actors one at a time, and then I built that show and we sent it to the animators. So the comedy is all about the timing of the lines being delivered and the freedom of what the actors could do. So yes, it's tough. It's tough to do ADR for a different reason, because you have to also follow this roadmap that's not necessarily the natural way to say it.
We always had a joke during Digimon that said, act faster. That's not typically a note that you get, is to act faster. They want, you know, more emotion or more this or more that. But, you know, if you've got a lot to say and only this much time to say it, you gotta, you know, or stretching, that's hard too, because most people don't talk that slow. And then you don't feel like it's natural. You don't feel like that's how a person would actually speak those words. Whereas, like we were saying with the original animation, you can have a character that's maybe got weird places that they might pause, and then they stretch out words and stuff. You can do things like that if you don't have to match something that's already been created. And like you said about the writing, there's so many shows where a lot of the time you're like, and I'm at the point now where I'll just rewrite it because I know it's not gonna fit before, and I'll, like, you know, you add in extra words here or there. I'm working on one now, it's actually live action dubbing, so it's real people, actors, it's in Spanish, and we're putting English over it, and sometimes it doesn't make sense in English. Or like if they're doing a joke that's funny in Spanish, and then the actual translation in English, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'll, you know, make it more Americanized or more English-like, just because I'm like, I'm sorry, no one would say that, it doesn't make any sense. So.
But good question. Good question. A ninja in the back.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Just sort of following on from that, I was just wondering how you decide what sort of voice each character is going to have.
Well, that sort of depends. A lot of the shows that we worked on, sometimes the creators had input, where they wanted the things to sound like the original Japanese. Sometimes they said they didn't care. And also, we also use, there's different cultures have different things that work based on comedy, things like that. For instance, a big, giant guy named Tiny, right? In the Japanese, might have a big voice. That's funny. But if he has a really high voice and talks like this, in America, that's hilarious, All right? So we would make choices based on also what would work for what the audience would be. We're given what's called sides, which will have like sometimes a character picture and a little snippet of what, a little description of what their attitude is about, maybe what their age is, and then a couple of lines from different things, like when they're angry, when they're happy, when they're joking. And those are the things that you sort of look at the picture, look at the age description, their attitude, and come up with that. But most of the time, with our shows, especially like a show like Yu-Gi-Oh, for instance, why does one person have a Brooklyn accent, someone else is Southern, someone else is this? It's because a lot of times in the original Japanese, they all sound the same. All young boy voices all sounded the same, and a lot of times they were voiced by the same actor. So what we wanted to do was give them recognizable voices so that you could recognize them from the other room, even when the TV was on and you weren't in front of it. You knew when Kaiba was speaking, you knew when Joey was speaking, you didn't have to look at the screen. And that's also where we came up with some of those voices.
For me, I'm not on the directing side, so for me, when I get sides, like Eric said, I like to see a picture. If I don't get a picture, that's okay, I can figure it out. But I read through it once, I'll look at the description. Sometimes they don't give you enough, and sometimes they give you too much. Like sometimes there's so much information and they tell you about the whole show or the whole video game or the whole whatever, and it's like, I need age, I need some personality traits, whether or not they have an accent, picture, and I just go. And I read through the dialogue, and it depends on, what kind of situation they're in, or if they're, if they're an alien, or if they're a creature, or whatever they are. And then I just kind of, whatever feels natural to me, and I just roll with it. And so far that's worked for me. Because they go, yes, we want you for that. So.
Yeah, I feel like actors have a bag of tricks, right? You'll meet a lot of voice actors that tell you they do like 300 different voices, and that would just be Billy West, right? Like he can do that. But most of, I don't have 300 different voices. I have my bag of tricks. So if a character is presented to me, I look at it and I go, well, which one of my registers, what am I going to pull out of my bag of tricks to use as a starting point? And that's another thing to do, We don't try to pick things we don't really do really well. So I'll turn down accents. I'm like, that's not a good accent. Let me try something. Let me try British instead of French. That sort of thing. Anyway, a good question. All right, so where's another ninja?
I see pointing. Don't see the person.
Hi there.
Oh.
I was just wondering if you guys have played any of the video games that you guys have been voice actors for, particularly things like the Naruto games or Sonic Boom.
I have not played the Naruto games. I will admit that. I'm not a big gamer. One of the games that I did before I started playing Tails, I was Charming Me. And it was like Sonic and at the Olympic something. Sorry, I'm really bad at like the video game stuff. I love to do it, but I just don't play them. But my kids played the Wii version of the Sonic Rings one, and I have heard rumors that the newest Sonic Boom game was a little bit of a disappointment. So I apologize, but I didn't make the game. But the show is awesome. And it's surprising to me that the game hasn't gotten as much joy as it should have, because it was, we all kind of worked together sometimes, which was rare for a video game to be in the room together. Usually you're by yourself. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know where Sega went awry. So I apologize on their behalf. But no, I have not played the games. I'm sorry.
So, just so you guys know that I am connected to you on geek culture, I am a true gamer. And I'll give you a little bit of my gaming history. I do not play any of the games that I work on because they are not the kind of games I play. I play more like, Halo and Borderlands 2 and stuff like that, but let me just give you a little history quick of Eric Stewart's gaming collection. I've got my Atari 2600 still in the box with 52 games. When it came out. I've got my PS1s, but before they were called PS1s. I've got 2 of those with the link cable, because I used to play picture-in-picture, TV to TV in my house multiplayer Doom before there was online gaming for those consoles. I've got the Xbox, I've got the 360, I've got the PS2, and I play every Wednesday night online with my 360 with the same 3 guys for the last 8 years. So sometimes when I come to these conventions, they ask me to go to the gaming room and play somebody. Hey, you want to come play this and that? I'm like, I don't really know that game, and then I destroy you. And they go, what the? And I go, look, man, that's why we only play games online against AI. It's got to be co-op multiplayer, because the last thing I really need to do on a Wednesday night, because I've only got a limited amount of time when I'm not doing everything else, is frag some 15-year-old's butt in some game. You know what I mean? Don't challenge me to gaming.
I'll never do it.
No. But yeah, so that's what I do. Yeah. There you go. I'm a gamer geek. But no Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Sorry. Good question, though. How are we doing for time, boss man?
Oh, me. What about 10 minutes and then we have to do the Pokemon show?
Right. All right. So where's another ninja with a question?
Hi.
Yes, in the back.
Yeah. Hi, you were talking about the different accents. How many languages do you each speak?
I speak one language, English.
In school I studied French, which of course is so well used right now. But I don't speak it fluently. No, I really just speak English and Brooklyn English and Southern English. But no, that's the problem. I think a lot of the U.S. is that we really need to speak some more languages than that in school. We talk more languages. You know.
To be fair, it's not really English, it's American.
Yeah, we speak American.
Speak American?
Yeah, we speak American. That's an apostrophe and then America. Okay, just so you know. Good question, though. All right, where else?
Good question? No. Is it a hand up or are you just sort of praying?
Peace.
Not the question.
You're right.
In the recent Pokemon games, they've released like the Mega Evolution.
Really?
Yeah. How do you after doing Digimon, how do you feel about Mega Evolution? How do you feel about Pokemon ripping off Digimon?
Well, since I don't work on the show anymore, that's just their mistake. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, wait, good question.
Yeah, that's good. No, I mean, yeah, great. I mean, and then again, what is original?
So, have the two of you ever worked together?
No.
No, we haven't. We met in New Zealand.
That's right. A lot of times it's like there's like East Coast, West Coast. I mean, she's based in LA. I was based in New York, so you know, we usually just run into each other, voice actors, at conventions, and it's nice. I mean, it would be nice to work together. That would be fun. We've gotten along. We spent the last 3 weeks hanging out, so yeah. I mean, it would be great. And the other cool thing about being a voice actor is that you can work remotely. I mean, I live in Nashville right now, and I've got a little studio, and I work from there. We could work on a show together. You know, she could record her lines out there in LA. I could do mine in New York. I mean, we could do that kind of stuff because we don't have to appear anywhere. Just
when we work on Sonic, Dr. Eggman is in New York, and the rest of us are in LA. So we hear him over the Skype.
My colleague. Yeah.
So what you're kind of saying is that you could direct something from Nashville.
Yep.
Colleen could record from LA, and I could record from Wellington. Do we have another question?
Yes, good question. Good question.
Hi. Just to make sure you're not completely stumped. I'm over here. Eric, you said you're a gamer.
Yeah.
How fond are you of horrors?
Of horrors?
Yes.
You mean like horror films?
Horror games.
Oh, you know, I play those too, like the Resident Evils and the let's see, Left 4 Dead. Played both 1 and 2 with all the DLC because that's co-op player. Yeah, no, I like that stuff too. No, I like the. I mean, you know, I'm not a violent guy, but I like that fantasy stuff. You know, the strategy and things like that. And also, I like to be scared. You know, out of my wits.
Your skin?
Yeah, I like that stuff.
In that case, might I recommend a game that's not co-op?
Yeah, what do you got?
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Sorry, is that a game or an invitation?
It's a game.
Just Five Nights at Freddy's, I think that was a high school experience of mine. But like, has anyone seen Eric? I think it's on his 5th night at Freddy's. You know? All right, good. I like that. Thank you. Good. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yep. Yes, there we go.
Hello.
Hello.
Just a question, obviously.
Well, hopefully. Not like
man, you have so understood the whole concept.
Dance monkey. Yes, all right, I'm ready.
From your most famous franchises, what would be your favorite line overall for that franchise there?
Do you have a favorite
From
one?
most famous, so like from Naruto?
Sonic, Naruto,
Sonic.
anything.
You know, I wish Tails had a catchphrase. He doesn't really have a catchphrase. I'm gonna call Bill Freiberger and say, get Tails a Dagburn catchphrase.
Make one up.
He doesn't really have one.
Make one up.
Come on, Sonic, we gotta go faster!
There it is.
The UT, what's his name? I like my Naruto stuff. Mind transfer jutsu!
There it is. That's,
There we go.
that's going to be on a t-shirt.
Mind transfer jutsu.
Well, I mean, I think I could give you two of them, right? You know, because Brock, I'll just use my trusty frying pan as a drying pan, right? Shakespeare. Absolutely Shakespeare. And then, of course, my favorite line, because it was for the benefit of the adults who had to go see the movie with their kids, that went over their kids' heads, was when James comes upon the movie with the floating alphabet letters, the unknown. Right? Yes. When James sees that, he says, I haven't seen this many strange letters since I placed that personal ad. Yes, and every adult in the movie theater laughed at that, and the kids were like, James said something funny, and the parents were like, James is on like Match.com and he's dating. So there, that was my, well, maybe second only to, I'm a flaming Moltres.
Stand up. Yep.
Hey.
I just wanted to ask you if you knew about the banned Pokemon episode where James had a pair of breasts.
I do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Would you have wanted to do that episode if it wasn't banned?
Well, let's see if I can explain this really quickly. So, because I was on the production side, I know all about why things are banned and why things are not. So, we have a thing called the BSMP in America, Broadcast Standards and Practices. And every Saturday morning, especially when you're on a network television show, there is someone at the network that goes through every episode, every script, all the visuals, and approves it or changes things. So when that episode came along, the people at the WB looked at that and thought that that promoted transsexuality and decided that that could not air on Saturday morning cartoons. Now, how many times have we seen bad guys, or even good guys, in drag in movies and TV, like Mrs. Doubtfire?
Lots.
Or you can go way back into Some Like It Hot, which of course you guys are all too young to have seen. But, yeah, Tootsie. The idea is that it should really be up to the parents to make those kinds of judgment calls. And also, do you really think that when you're 7 or 8 years old, that's what you're thinking about when you see James in drag? Or, I mean, I know he had breasts in that episode. But we also got rid of things like guns pointing at heads, and we got rid of cigarettes in mouths, because those are the rules from the network, not from the production company. So yes, it would have been fun to have dubbed that. It would never air. We did do 1 or 2 shows that didn't make it, that are probably in the lost episodes and things like that. But that's why they do that sort of thing. But if you go to the original anime, you'll be able to see it. Even the original manga, those are very, that's the cultural difference. Read the manga for Yu-Gi-Oh! Kaiba kills his stepfather by pushing him out a window. We could not do that on Saturday morning cartoons. It had to be that, his stepfather or whatever went away. Because that wasn't really appropriate for our audience. So that's why those changes were made.
I can't believe they let Konohamaru do the sexy jutsu. But they do. Sexy jutsu!
And I think there's nothing better to end our panel on than sexy juju. So Hamilton, a big round of applause for Colleen and Eric.
Thank you.
Although that being said, Eric's going to stay and do a competition with us.
Okay.
Are you busy now?
Am I supposed to be signing? I don't know.
Where's your mind?
Where's Harrison? Am I
Is she
supposed to
busy?
leave?
You
I'm
have to
busy.
leave us.
Thank you guys so much. I've had the best time. I love New Zealand. I hope I get to come back someday. Everyone has been so lovely. So thank you so much. Thank you.